Let's get to the news.
The Sustainable Agricultural Rural Development Program, Reef Saudi, has launched an international training program to enhance farmers' skills and knowledge. The program will feature study tours focused on specific agricultural fields, including introducing participants to modern agricultural methods. According to the Saudi press agency, the launch ceremony took place at the Ministry of Environment, Water, and Agriculture HQ in Riyadh, with reps from the ministry and the UN Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, in attendance. The training program seeks to foster networking opportunities and encourage participants to adopt and share their learnings from the study tours within and beyond their communities.
The program also aims to provide consultation spaces and introduce participants to innovative agricultural practices, and it targets specialists in the field of study, including smallholder farmers, land users, and owners of agricultural businesses and institutions. I love this news because it really is talking about how scholarships in Saudi Arabia really are expanding specifically to address some of the key industries that we need to grow in order to really, kind of achieve the goals of Vision 2030. And sustainable agriculture is one of them. So it's a really exciting piece of news for me. Love training.
Something that we have talked about, not much on the show, Dr. Hannah, but a decent amount off the show, is sort of the arc and maybe over time development of Saudi Arabia's agricultural programs. And of course, you had a ton of agriculture in Saudi Arabia before. If you fly into Riyadh, especially, and a lot of other cities as well, you'll see outside the city sort of the former and still existing in some areas, central pivot irrigation system. So it looks like you're flying into like International Space Station at the beginning, because you have these big green circles dotting the area outside of Saudi Arabia. In 2014, 2015, something like that, maybe even a little bit earlier, they started to phase out wheat production because of water use and the need to conserve water, which wheat uses a lot of. They started to more intelligently kind of approach their agricultural needs, especially as they start really growing quickly. Saudi Arabia starts growing really quickly, I should say. And you also are seeing a lot of investments by various investment funds like Kaust and their investment funds and others that are based in Riyadh into technologies that are sustainable ag, or in the sustainable ag space, I should say. Things like Red Sea Farms was one of the earlier investments that appears to be doing well and has secured several rounds. So yeah, this is an interesting space, an interesting news item as well.
Yeah, and I was reading in Arab news recently that one of the largest sustainable agricultural projects is in the south as well. So you do have more kind of irrigation in certain parts of the country. And I think that I saw a really cool documentary about regenerative farming in Bayla as well. So there's just a lot of really interesting things happening. And it's so important to talk about this because it's not what people would think when they think Saudi Arabia. They think, deserts. They're not thinking about what's happening in Tabuk and what's happening in Asir. And they're not definitely thinking about all of the vertical farms that are popping up everywhere. There's just so much innovation in the space. And it's so important for food security. It's so important for jobs. It's important for the environment. It's just, I think really important space to keep an eye on.
Yeah. And of course, you have the American story of the Dust Bowl, which is the greatest unsustainable agricultural event in human history. It almost destroyed the country. It's a terrific documentary. If you're looking for one, by Ken Burns, several parts. Really, what I love about what he does is the interviews with the Americans that have perspectives on it, and the interesting twang that they have in the accent, as well as their perspective of what happened with the Dust Bowl. But it's an amazing story about what happens when you're not sustainable in your agricultural practices. And I'll leave it at that. It's a good one. Check it out.
And in not completely unrelated news, Saudi Arabia's PIF expands green investments to $19 billion across 91 projects. The PIF has expanded its green project investment plan to over $19.4 billion, covering 91 eligible projects in areas such as renewable energy and clean transportation. In its second allocation and impact report, PIF provided an update on the allocation impact of its green bonds as of June 30th. The new paper revealed that PIF has currently identified a capital expenditure portfolio of, we've said this a few times now, but $19.4 billion of eligible green projects, of which $8.5 billion has been earmarked to be allocated under PIF's two green bonds, referring to these, the ones issued in 2022 and 2023, totaling a combined $8.5 billion.
So how much is the PIF spending on? I'm just kidding. According to the report,
I think this, you'll remember this.
Yeah,
now.
that's right. You know what?
Billion.
The power of repetition. We got it in spades. According to the report, there are 18 operational projects categorized under renewable energy, energy efficiency, green buildings, clean transportation, as well as sustainable water management, pollution prevention, and sustainable management of living, natural resources, and land use. The Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund has allocated, here's a new number, $457 million for these projects, with $372 million for 8 green building projects. The remaining 18.9, there it is again, billion, was allocated to 73 under construction projects spanning the same categories, with green buildings also taking the largest share at $6.3 billion for 3 projects. PIF is attracting sustainable investments into Saudi Arabia's eco-conscious economy by issuing green bonds, as many know now, and funding capital projects in renewable energy, efficiency, water management, etc. This is cool in part because there is a lot of talk about this space globally, and then also in Saudi Arabia. This is evidence, this is the receipts, as it were, that it's actually happening, and PIF is leading it, and it's cool.
It's a lot of billions that are being invested in the green space. So it is definitely very cool.
Yeah.